what I want for Christmas is the camera person.
Started doing native gardening, because that's my passion, is California native plants. You don't know a woman named Lucy, do you? She works at Beyond Meat, and she's set up that garden out there. She often does
Jim, can you do me a favor, move a little to your left?
food.
Yes.
You're Jim?
Yes.
Are you Jim? Yeah, can you just scoot your chair a little to the left? Yeah, I need you to,
But we finished ours.
yeah, that works.
Started that site, so it's like, yes.
Yeah, it's
Really cool.
I never, because I had a bunch of, I think of the people, when you break up your driveway, and you have that cement, the thing that, and so she, like, it was giving me away, and she answered the ad. So there's 183 people.
Yeah, and get beyond that.
Okay. Hi, folks. Welcome. Oop. With my little microphone, I'm getting slowly more techy here, kinda. Hi, Jen, could you do me a favor and look through the
I'm gonna
thing
move
and
this a little
see if I'm in
taller.
good shape?
Yeah. A little too low.
There.
Yeah. Okay, hi YouTube folks, we'll get this straightened out, I promise. Okay, we're good?
That's good.
Okay, thank you. You're now elected camera person.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, hi, good. So good to have everyone here. Lot going on, there's a lot in the air. There's literally been a lot in the air here. There have been days that I've gone outside and said, oh, this is like being back in India. The way that the air smelled on the bad days here is pretty much what Mumbai smells like on a good day. So it's all relative. It's all relative. If you're like me, we have friends who've lost their homes. We have friends, we have actually family who were evacuated from their homes. They just got the word that they can go back. Hopefully things are okay there when they get back. So when times like this come, you know, all this practice we've been doing, all your meditative practice, your spiritual practice, your whatever your psychological practice, when times like this come, this is what you've been practicing for. Okay? This is, you've been doing the fire drill. This is, in this case, this is, you know, some of you have heard me say this a lot. You want to do the fire drill before the fire. In this case, it's literally the fire. Sometimes the fire is on a community scale, sometimes it's on a nationwide scale or a global scale, sometimes it's the fire is on a personal scale. You know, sometimes it's something just going on within your family, sometimes it's illness, it's death in the family, it's career crisis. I mean, you know, like there's just any number of kinds of fires that we get challenged by. And everything's not necessarily easy when it's time to deal with them, but we can make it easier. And the drill for all these different kinds of fires is pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same. Because it's all, you know, whether it's you're going through a career crisis or whether you're going through a drug rehab crisis or whether you're going through your house burned down crisis, it's all calling on your the same inner resources, the same ability to be grounded, the same ability to be centered, the same ability to not be overwhelmed so that you can see clearly and see what needs to be done to help others and yourself. And to be able to participate in all the, sometimes what seems like noise and chaos on the outside, while remaining anchored on the silence on the inside. And you can't just suddenly decide, okay, now I'm going to be anchored in silence. Sometimes you can, actually. Some people, have you ever experienced that? Like when some people, when the emergency happens, they just kind of lose their heads. And some people, when the emergency happens, they just kind of, things go boom. You know, just they get quiet, they get like something gets solid inside. I don't know if that rings a bell for any of you. You know, people who maybe have never done a minute of meditation in their lives, just that they, just something intuitively inside knows where that switch is. But for the rest of us, we want to do the practice. Okay. So, whether you're here for the 100th time or here for the first time, we've got a couple of people here for the first time, and friends out in YouTube land, welcome, and it's all going to be easy. I said dealing with the stuff on the outside is not always easy, but this stuff's always easy. The sinking inside is always easy, because it's natural, it's not what people usually think of when they think of meditation. Usually they think of, oh, I have to clear my mind, oh, I have to stop my thoughts, oh, I have to feel peaceful inside, oh, I have to try to be spiritual inside. All of this I have to try this, try that. It's none of that. It's kind of the opposite of all that. That's all unnatural. That's all attempted manipulation. Can't even say manipulation because it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and I know I've tried. But as you'll see in a moment, this is more a matter of just letting go and allowing the gravity, the mind's natural gravitation toward peace, toward silence, toward fulfillment, toward the feeling of, things are okay. We're all trying to, we all wanting to be there all the time. In everything that we do, that's what we're looking for out here. And it turns out it's all, sometimes it's sort of available out here, sometimes not, depends on what's going on out here. It's hard to find that, on the outside when your house is burning down. It's always available on the inside, at our deepest core of being. So natural meditation, which is what we do here, is allowing our natural gravitation toward that to just pull us in, so we don't have to push. Okay? So, would you like a cushion under your feet?
Sure, that one.
Right there.
There we go.
Yeah. See, and that's rule one, be comfortable.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great, excellent. So however you're sitting, if you can perhaps imagine or intuit or find a slightly more comfortable way to sit, do that. Do that. And at any point during the practice, if your position becomes uncomfortable, you need to recross your legs or uncross your legs or scratch your nose or whatever, then do that. Okay, you don't lose points for moving around. You do lose points for sitting there being rigid and uncomfortable and thinking, oh, I got to sit here and be rigid and uncomfortable because it's meditation and I have to look like a stone Buddha. You know, even the Buddha didn't look like a stone Buddha. The real Buddha was made out of flesh and blood like the rest of us, and I'm pretty sure he, scratched his nose when it itched. That's my guess. So, let's start with a sound. It's a sound you've made many thousands of times in your life, the sound that you make when everything's okay and you're letting go, you're giving up, you're done, you finally solved the crossword puzzle, you finally took your last final exam, you finally finished your taxes, you finally got the stringy piece of celery out from between those two back teeth, and that sound is So let's take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. And again, 1, 2, 3. And if your eyes are open, just let your eyes close. 1, 2, 3. So that was the hard part. Now we just leave everything as it is. Your body is already resting in the seat. The seat is taking all your weight. Please notice that. Notice that the seat holds all of your weight, every pound of it. You don't have to hold any of it. That goes on all by itself. The senses function all by themselves. So that sounds come and go, the sound of this voice, occasional sounds of cars or airplanes outside. And notice there's no doing from your side. You don't have to do anything to experience the sounds. See what I mean? You can't control the sounds. You can't anticipate what will be the next sound. It's all happening totally by itself. You're unemployed. And all the other senses are working just like hearing. You're seeing. Even with the eyes closed, there's some color going on. Feeling, you feel the temperature of the air in the room. Not that we're trying, oh, now I have to be vigilant, I have to remember to feel the air in the room. No, I'm just pointing out stuff that might come and go within your awareness. Without any participation. We're not trying to keep track, we're not trying to be vigilant or mindful. Just totally lazy. Just allowing all the hearing, the seeing, the feeling, allowing everything to come and go within our awareness. And even to say allowing is too much, because, you know, the stuff comes and goes whether we allow it or not. And notice also that thoughts come and go within our awareness. Thoughts and feelings, and there's nothing special about them. They're just like sounds, but a little quieter, or feelings. They are. The feelings, the emotion feelings are just like physical feelings, but maybe a little subtler. So there's nothing new here. There's no meditation here. We're just noticing the way awareness always works. This is exactly the way every moment of experience in your life has been. Just stuff coming and going within your awareness. Only for once maybe we noticed it a little more clearly. And for once we're just relaxing into the situation as it is. We're not trying to do anything about it. Just letting what comes come, and letting what goes go. Not trying to concentrate or focus on anything. Not trying to feel any special way. Any concept of, oh, I'm supposed to do this, or it's supposed to be like that, that's just a thought. Just throw it into the fire. Now there's one other thing that we might notice. As all the thoughts and feelings, sounds, sensations come and go, we might notice where it is that all this coming and going is taking place. The space that it's taking place in. We might notice that there's kind of an empty space, a space of emptiness, a space of openness, within which all these experiences arise and fall away. It's kind of like physical space. It has no color. We might experience colors, but those are experiences coming and going within this space. The space itself has no color, no shape, no texture. Like physical space. But actually, this is the space of our own awareness. I mean, naturally, where else could things be experienced but within our own awareness? just like physical space, it's always open and free and unaffected by the things that move around within it. So we can just rest in this natural space, this space of awareness, which is always there, but maybe we haven't noticed before. Just allow the space to be. Just be open to this open space. And it doesn't much matter what the other stuff is passing through it. The main thing is the space. Allow the space to be the main thing. Not trying to visualize space, because there's nothing to visualize. It's just big, empty space, not even big or small. It has no size, no anything. Yet it's where we always are, where everything's always taking place. So all we have to do is relax back into this space, this openness, this awareness, this beingness. That's simple. Just relax back into yourself. Just allow the space to be. any point, if you feel that you're struggling with something, maybe a feeling or a thought, struggling with it or resisting it or hanging on to it, just relax your grip on it. That's all. That's it. Don't try to get rid of anything or resolve anything. Just relax your grip on it and let it, in its own time, it'll dissolve into this space of awareness. In fact, you might notice you can notice, take a look right now, what are thoughts made of? If you have a thought of a rock, is that thought made out of rock? No, it's made out of awareness, which is like space. A thought of a rock, or a thought of a tree, or anything else, is just space-like awareness that's taken a temporary form. So it's completely natural for it to just dissolve back into space in its own time. So there's nothing for us to do but allow the space. Just let the space be. Just let the space be everything. Now keep your eyes closed and take a couple of minutes to gently bring the body back to a more active mode. Just like waking up in bed in the morning. You might feel like shifting around in the seat, stretching. You might feel like rubbing your face or your hands, getting the blood circulating again. And when the body feels ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay. How's everyone doing? Good?
Well,
That was nice.
Good? Nice? Good. Excellent. Great. Words I love to hear.
A lot better than when I walked in.
A lot better than when you walked in. Yay! That's what's supposed to happen. It's that simple. There's like, feeling worse and feeling better. Being a little more whatever, confused or grumpy or cloudy or whatever, or more clear and settled and okay. We've all, just it's life, sometimes it's more grouchy or cloudy or whatever, and sometimes it's more clear and okay. But it turns out we don't have to be just totally at the mercy of those winds of change. That we can systematically tap into that place of boundless okayness. It's a phrase I love to say. Infinite okayness. And marinate in that. And then when we come out, some of it sticks.
Can you use meditation to lose weight? To get rid of body fat?
Interesting
Is that
question.
possible?
A lot of people do experience that, mainly because, why do people overeat?
Yeah, can you meditate to not do that?
Well, it's simpler than that. I think your basic idea is right, but the way we get there is simpler. Like, we don't have to meditate to lose weight. We don't have to meditate to be more effective at your job. In other words, there's no specific meditation for any of that. There's one general meditation, which is what we just did, which is settling into our very core. What could be more profound than that? Now, as it happens, when we come out, because we're feeling naturally more fulfilled, more of that, as I was saying earlier, that just feeling of, that more and more of that sticks with you, then you become less susceptible to, okay, I'm feeling, I think I'll eat a package of cookies now. you know,
Oh, no.
or oh, okay, I think I'll smoke a cigarette now, or I think I'll, you know, toss back, you know, 6 more beers now. Right. I mean, all of these, so for different people, it's going to manifest in different ways, but it's the same thing. It's, I mean, you know, overeating and you know, addiction to a drug, or addiction to an iPhone.
I have a
Or-
food addiction.
Yeah, so.
It's like I can't stop sometimes.
Yeah, so all these different addictions can sound in the way they express, they're all very different. But the root of them is all the same, which is simply being cut off from that natural feeling of, that, you know, we're all kind of wandering around in paradise lost. You know, what's the line from Bob Dylan, you know, outside the gates of Eden. You know, it's like we all have some sort of intuitive sense, some intuitive memory that you know, once upon a time everything was okay, and somehow we got lost. Somehow, you know, right? And you know, every culture they like make myths about it. Oh yeah, there was the golden age. You know, there was the garden, and then we ate the apple or whatever it was, and there was the fall, and then, you know, and then how do we get, you know, what is the Joni Mitchell song? And we've got to find our way back to the garden,
Right.
right? And that's what we're all trying to do, really, in every moment. And we're looking for the right thing, but usually looking in the wrong places, because we're looking at, okay, maybe it'll be in this book, maybe it'll be in this box of donuts, maybe it'll be in this relationship, you know. It's not in any of those things, it's in here. But then, oddly enough, the more we find it in here, the more we also find it everywhere else. But more and more our interaction with everything out here and everyone out here, it's not coming from a place of need. It's coming from a place of fullness. And so therefore we don't get caught up in, oh, I gotta have the next donut to be okay, or I gotta have the next drink to be okay, or I gotta make the next snide comment that will be belittling to the other person, and I really know I shouldn't, but ooh, I want to do that because it feels so good to, you know, to twist that knife. You know, it's the same thing. It's just all different manifestations. There's basically one malady, you know, one human disease, which is the disconnection from our core. And then but there's just, you know, an infinite number of ways. In the Buddhist literature, they use the magic number 1008. You know, they just like 1008 ways to be screwed up. One way to be fine. Fortunately, because that makes things simple. We don't have to learn, okay, now I got an eating problem, so I gotta learn the weight loss meditation. I got a drinking problem. No, it's much more simple. We just all learn the same just being meditation, the same just resting in space meditation. You know, it's like a circle. There's an infinite number of points. You know, the Buddhists would say like 1008 points on the circumference out here and wandering around outside the garden. In the middle of the circle, that's the garden. That's the paradise lost. There's just one point there. Now everyone's adventure, because you know there's all these spokes, all these radii going from all the points on the circumference back to the center. So everyone's adventure there is a little bit different. You know, everyone's you know, how you came to walk through this door, or to pick up that book, or to watch that YouTube cast, or whatever it is. And then what happens when you sit down and meditate? You know, when you go through that thought. Oh, you find yourself knocking your head against this thing. Oh, you find yourself trying in this way until you give up trying. You know, everyone's adventure is a little different. But as we go along, you know, as we progress along those spokes, get closer to the center, it gets more and more the same. You know, we feel like our stories are so unique. So, you know, well, I may be screwed up, but I'm screwed up in a way that's really special. You know? And then more and more as things get clearer and more settled, yeah, it's simple, it's the same, just being, just resting in that space, allowing the space. And then more and more you're walking around with your eyes open and, oh, it's the same deal. Where's all this happening? Where's all this experience happening? If not in that same free, open space of awareness. And more you realize, oh, I can rest in this space with my eyes open. What's so special about having my eyes closed? I can rest in that space while I'm walking around, functioning, talking, doing things. What's so special about being silent? And then the idea of, oh, you have to sit down and meditate and all that. Oh, it's foolishness. It's still actually, you know what, actually people who are really fully awakened and who, you know, some whose pictures you see here, for the sake of awakening, they're done, they're cooked. They don't need to sit and close their eyes and meditate. Generally, they still continue to do so, however, for really two reasons. One is it's really good for the body, because when you close your eyes and sit and just settle into that, even though you're already there as far as your awareness is concerned, but you let the body settle into that hypometabolic state, it's really good, really healing for the body. Helps keep you young, helps keep you healthy. And you're having such a good time, you probably want to stick around for a while. And the second reason is to provide a good example for others who may not be, you know, fully cooked yet. Otherwise, you know, they start going, oh, well, the cool kids don't sit and meditate anymore. I want to be one of the cool kids. Is this all landing? Are you hearing this? Yeah, good. Any other questions or observations about either stuff that happened in the meditation tonight or stuff happening in your adventure of awakening? You know, a couple of new folks, this is making sense to you? Good. So I should mention, especially because we have a few new people here and maybe out there, it's really good to sit and do this every day. It's really good to fix up a time, to do it at the same time every day. It doesn't really matter whether you do it at the same time or different times, but if you pick a time, then it's not a question of getting around to it. You just make it like brushing your teeth. You make it part of your schedule. And that's really, if you really want to find out if, you know, what I'm talking about here is just some nice, you know, spiritual fairy tale, or if it really does happen, if you really do start finding that sense of walking around in the of open space, whether your eyes are open or closed. If you really want to find out if it happens, sit down and do it every day for a while. Sit down and do it every day for a month. I think a month seems like, doesn't that seem fair? You know, you've been walking around for whatever, 20, 30, 40, 50 years without doing that. I think a month is a good, right, opening experiment. See what happens. Yeah, Sue Ellen?
This is just a matter of idle curiosity, but you often talk about when someone's fully awake. Is there awareness of being fully awake? Is that like come down like lightning, or is it kind of a gradual thing? Do you realize that you're fully awake, or, I mean, you must, but how does that happen to people?
That's a great question. Okay, so this becoming fully awake, does it happen gradually? Does it happen suddenly? Do people know, oh, okay, I'm fully awake now? it varies. And again, this is like what I was saying, the spokes going from the radii going from all the different points on the circumference of the circle. There's an infinite number of those. So that's a little different for each person. Okay. The most typical thing is actually, it's great. There's a line in a Hemingway novel where one character's gone bankrupt, and the other one asks him, "How did you go bankrupt?" And he says, "2 ways. First gradually, then suddenly." And I love that. It's so appropriate because really enlightenment is a form of bankruptcy. We finally run out of bullshit. We finally run out of ways to distract ourselves from what's all around us. You know that great Paul McCartney song, Martha My Dear. 50th anniversary, by the way, of the White Album, right? When you find yourself in the thick of it, help yourself to a bit of what is all around you. So in Awakening, we find, oh, this has been all around me all along. Duh. There's one thing that's pretty universal, is the duh moment. There's when people awaken, it's like, how did I miss this? Because it's not like some new experience. You realize, this is what's been here all along. I've been in this space. This space has been me, my core. All experience has been happening in this space of awareness all along. I kept looking for fulfillment and happiness and okayness in the phenomena in the space, and all the time it was the space. How did I miss it? It was right here. It was right me. How did I miss it? So that's kind of a universal aspect of it. Now, some people, it like the whole thing is really sudden. And those are the ones that you tend to hear about in the books. We've talked before about Sri Ramana Maharshi, right? Who great 20th century sage. He was 16 years old, and he was home alone, and he started getting very agitated, and he thought he was dying. And fortunately, he had the presence of mind. Something inside told him, okay, don't panic, assume the position. Living in India, he'd seen bodies being carried out to the river, so he knew the position. He went in Shavasana, right, the corpse pose. He just lay down on his back in the middle of the floor and said, okay, if I'm going to die, let's check this out. Let's experience what it's like. What is it like? Okay, there the object, and it was like he was dying. The objects of the senses were going away. The senses were going away. The mind was going away. Everything that we tend to identify with. That usually we think, and by the way, some years later in the 60s, when people started like dropping acid, this is what a lot of people experience. When you heard of people like panicking, oh no, I'm dying. And it's essentially the same thing. In this case, kind of artificially jacked up by taking the drug. This sense of all these things that I thought I was my mind, I thought I was my body, now it's going away. Oh no, I'm being annihilated. But Sri Ramana had the presence of mind, even for something inside him when he was 16, told him, okay, don't panic, just let it be, let it go, let what goes go. And everything went. But there was still something left, and it was this open space of awareness within which this whole apparent dying process was happening. And after a while he sat up and he said, well, I'm not dead, I'm awake. 16 years old. So when it happens quickly like that, it's very dramatic, so those are the ones you tend to read about in the books. And then you tend to think, oh, that's the way it has to happen. Now, in reality, for most people, it's more slow, it's more gradual. It sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you. It's just, more and more. Like when I started going on weekend retreats, back at the beginning of my meditation career, I started going on these weekend retreats. And after I came back for the 4th or 5th one, and on these retreats, you do more hours of meditation, so, you get pretty nicely cooked. And after my 4th or 5th one, I came back and my girlfriend said, every time you come back from one of these retreats, you're a little bit nicer. You know, that's simple. It's just like the rough edges are getting sanded off. Now, and when she said that, and this is significant, I said, I am? Oh, okay. You know, I wasn't trying to be nicer. I didn't notice that I was nicer. It's natural. It's just when the stress that's causing you to react to things in a pissy way, when that stress starts to dissolve, then naturally you're nicer without trying or necessarily even noticing. And it's very common that, you know, like in couples or in families, the other people close to you will sometimes notice before you do. So in a way, you know, it's just like that, incrementally. And then, so that's like the going bankrupt gradually. We gradually, you know, getting bankrupt of our nonsense, our bullshit, our distractions, our obscurations, the obscurations to the clear perception of what we are and what's what. And then there could be some thing, you know, it's like could be like, very commonly like the apple is like, you know, loosening, ripening, and then maybe some particular breeze comes along and it drops. And sometimes people can be a little confused when that happens. In some ways, as you get closer to that, sometimes the need for guidance is more rather than less. Sometimes things will happen where a person might wake up in the middle of the night and go, and I've heard of cases like this, they're starting to call the doctor. They think, something's wrong here. something's wrong. But then you stop and think, oh, wait a minute, and you start like walking through mentally, okay, what do I know about, what is it, does this sound familiar? You know, which is that just, because it can seem like a sense of separateness from the, you know, before you're used to it. It's like, oh, I don't feel tucked into the body the way I used to. It's like the body is another thing here in the room, like the chair, and it is another thing. You're not this, thank God, because this thing's got to die. That's why enlightened people are not, you know, one thing that happens is they don't worry about death because they know they're not the body. They're not identified with that anymore. They're identified with this space. They may not know the words. You know, you asked, do awakened people know they're awakened? Now, because being awakened is the most natural thing in the world, because I know you don't believe that, right? But it is. I mean, what's more natural? Knowing that you are what you are, or thinking you're something other than what you are?
Well, the only thing I can think of that's kind of like that is sometimes when you recall your childhood, you'll go through something where you're completely unaware of, you're just there doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you feel completely comfortable in who you are,
Yes.
but you don't have cognizance of that.
Right. You don't. So as the child, yeah, and in fact, there's a story. It said that the Buddha, when he was near the final stages of his awakening, becoming the Buddha. Buddha just means someone who's awake. We're all burgeoning Buddhas. You know, we're all burgeoning Buddhas around here. So the story is that as he was in the final stages of waking up, he remembered a childhood experience. I mean, you're right on the money with this. Well, he remembered sitting under a tree. And it's interesting because as he was remembering this, he was sitting under a tree. He was sitting under the what we now call the Bodhi tree, the enlightenment tree, in Bodh Gaya in northern India. And he remembered as a child sitting under a tree on a summer day, watching his father supervising the plowing of the fields or the harvesting of the fields, something, and just kind of, as you say, going into that zone, just being in that place of just things falling away, sense of boundedness falling away, and just everything being just boundlessly okay for no particular reason. You know, which many of us had glimpses of in childhood. But it just happens in such a natural way. As you say, we don't think much about it. It's like we're awake, but we're somehow not awake to our awakeness. And the Buddha recalled that. And he said, oh yeah, what's happening now, this is familiar, but now I'm here with that clarity. But it's really a great question, and it's really good to have some clear understanding of this, because, you know, with fancy words like awakening and enlightenment and realization, you know, it's easy to misunderstand it and think it's something exotic or something, you know, far out, or something, you know, you're walking around just, you know, having this like 24/7 psychedelic orgasm or something, you know, and in fact it's the most natural thing in the world. Way better than having a psychedelic orgasm. That sounds exhausting. You know, it's nothing exotic. Oh, and that thing that you looked a little bit skeptical about when I said it's the most natural thing in the world to know what you are. I'm not saying it's the most common thing in the world. Right? But it is the most natural thing. You know, for people who really are awake, you know, walking around seeing other people, it's like, boy, there's a lot of people sleepwalking around here. And when most people are sleepwalking, it's not surprising that people bump into each other in various ways. And that's what we see when we, you know, read the evening news, right? You know, people bumping into each other on every level, on you know, domestically in your own home, and you know, out on the streets, and then, you know, in international affairs. It's just that people being caught up in that smallness and that pissiness and that you know, when you feel fundamentally not okay inside yourself, you look for things to blame it on. You look for, and you start blaming it on other people and other situations and so forth, finding enemies, finding scapegoats. You know, and we have a lot of dramatic acting out of that these days. I'm not going to name any names, but we don't have to look far. But I think it's good to realize that what we're doing here, you know, it's not just relaxation. It's not just, okay, my blood pressure is going to get more normal. Yes, it is. But that's, in a way, that's the least of it. We're really dealing with that which is at the root of the problem. The problems, you know, with all the manifestations of the problems, which comes down to the problem of human beings being cut off from the awareness of this natural openness, this natural happiness, this natural okayness that is what each of us is. So it's really good to do this every day. It comes down to just the, you know, stupid simple thing: sit down, shut up, close your eyes, and just rest. Notice the steps, that all the things we're aware of, all the sensations, the sounds, the thoughts, the feelings, it all comes and goes within the awareness. But it's all within this awareness, within this space of awareness. And the space itself is just openness, is just emptiness, and just rest in that luminous emptiness. And anytime you feel yourself caught up in something, resisting something, struggling with something, just, it's okay. Don't try to get rid of it, don't try to resolve it, just relax your grip on it. Relax back into yourself, relax back into that space. Again and again, if need be. Again and again. It's good for that to happen, by the way. It's necessary. Don't think that, oh, because some sessions will just be like, some sessions it's just like, oh man, I'm really there, I'm just sucked into that spaciousness. Man, it's a good meditation. And then sometimes it's like, oh, I keep getting caught up in stuff, and then I keep worrying about this thing, and then, oh yeah, just relax my grip on it, relax back. Okay, oh, now I'm caught up in this thing. Oh, that's weird. And now I'm caught up, right? Sometimes it's going to be like that for everyone. That has to be. That's all part of the process. That needs to happen. You need to get caught up in stuff so that you can find out how to let go of it. That has to happen. In a way, the meditation is like the lab for that. You need to experience getting caught up and, you know, knocking your head against stuff and then realizing, okay, this isn't working. Just relax my grip. Because you're going to find yourself doing this, you know, you have for a lifetime found yourself knocking your head against stuff out here in the world. And so the nervous system learns what it feels like to be doing this or what it feels like to be doing this. And that this doesn't work in meditation, this does. And this doesn't work in life, this does. That's a big revelation. There's never a reason not to relax. Bless you. There is never, can you hear that? There is, try to think of a situation in whatever you do, in your work, in your relationship, in your walking on the beach, in your playing your guitar, whatever. Try to think of a situation where tension makes it better. Where being tense makes your performance better.
Receiving a serve in tennis.
Ah, interesting, interesting. Receiving a serve in tennis.
For an instant,
Yeah.
They
not
are
before
not,
and after them.
they are not relaxed.
Now,
I disagree.
thank you. I
Disagree.
mean, this raises such a great point.
I played tennis. If you're more relaxed, you do better.
Wait, say it again?
I said I played tennis for many, many years. If you're more relaxed, you play better. So I disagree.
Uh-huh.
Tension is a locked position, isn't it? It's kind of locked.
Now, I can't speak with authority specifically about tennis because I don't play tennis or any other ball game. Remember the kid who was afraid of the ball? That was me.
Tension
But-
starts showing up on your face, you get wrinkles.
That's
You can
true.
start getting a lot of wrinkles.
That's true. That's true. I can tell you, and I have a story
Right here.
about this. Let me read you this story actually. This is a chapter in this book. It's called, where is it?
Is that fearless?
Yeah. Relax at the moment of contact. Okay, I'm just going to read you a page or two from this, because this is the closest that I can talk about this firsthand. The experience is all too familiar. You know you can no longer put off that onerous phone call to that difficult person. Right outside your window, it's a perfect spring day, but all you can feel is dread, like a vice tightening around your temples. In the previous chapter, we referred to this as being gripped by the stressful feelings. But if we look more carefully, is that really what happens? Do the feelings grip us, or in some way are we gripping them? No matter what we feel gripped by, whether it's tension, apprehension, obsession, anything, the question is the same. And the answer is important. If it turns out that it's us that's been gripping all along, that's excellent news. That means we can stop. But how would we do that? It seems obvious that the opposite of gripping is letting go, and let go is advice you'll often hear. In fact, it's become a bit of a cliche in the worlds of therapy and meditation. But it's often construed in a way that backfires. People hear the word go and think that the thing they're letting go of is supposed to go away. And then they feel frustrated when it doesn't. They'll often say, I'm trying to let go, but I can't. But that's not letting go. That's insisting that the thought or feeling disappear, which is a backdoor way of holding on to it. So forget about letting go. Instead, just relax your grip. Then it doesn't matter whether the thought or feeling continues to hang around or not. We can't control that, and we don't have to. To be clear about this, let's do an experiment. If you happen to have a ball handy, such as a tennis ball or a beach ball, please place it on your open palm and grip it tightly from beneath. So you can try this at home if you want. Walk around the room like this, from the chair to the table to the window or whatever landmarks are there. This is your mind gripping some thought or feeling. It encounters all the aspects of day-to-day living, all the room's landmarks, but its experiences of them are filtered through the tension of that gripping. Now relax your grip on the ball and walk around some more. The ball may fall away immediately or eventually, or it may remain in your hand, but it doesn't matter. The hand is open and at ease. The landmarks are experienced with clarity, just as they are, without the distorting filter of tension. Our new practice is simply to take this habit on the road, to apply it in real-life situations. It does require some attention at first to recognize when you're tightening up. Although it may be subtle, there's generally a physical component to that tightening, a sort of bracing of the body. You may feel it in a particular region. For many people, it's the neck, lower back, or gut, but it can be anywhere. Notice it, relax your grip, and just sink back into yourself. Initially, there may be moments when the newness of this approach makes it a little disconcerting. Over the years of using your old approach, you may have come to equate being tense with being conscientious. You may wonder, can I really take care of business effectively without my old tightness? Or am I just being flaky and irresponsible? But once you try the new way a few times, experience will show you that when you're loose, you're actually more effective. Tightness restricts your range of motion and narrows your vision, keeping you from seeing possible solutions to problems. If you're all wrapped up in fuming at the slow-moving traffic, you may not notice the clear side streets that can get you around the traffic. If you're caught up in anxiety about the impression you're making in your job interview, you may not see the warm smile or hear the gracious comments that the interviewer is making to signal that you're doing fine. Years ago, when I was studying the martial art of Aikido with my teacher Rick Stickles, I had an experience that brought this point home to me in a very dramatic physical way. I was practicing for a test where I would have to repel 3 opponents as they repeatedly rushed me. Aikido, when it's done right, is beautiful to watch, almost dance-like. Rather than clash with your attackers, you use their own energy, and in big circular pivoting movements, you send them rolling or sailing across the mat. But as the first attacker rushed in to grab me and I tried to execute the throw, I couldn't budge it. We wound up grappling instead, locked in place, as the other 2 rushed in to take me down. This happened again and again, till suddenly I heard the teacher's voice. Halfway up the stairs to the dressing room, he had paused to watch, and he called out, "Relax at the moment of contact." Was I tensing up? That was news to me. I had been too busy tensing up to realize I was tensing up. But now, as the next attacker grabbed me, I relaxed. No longer frozen in my own rigidity, no longer working against my own tension, I felt my shoulders go soft and my energy drop from my upper body to my hips. In the same moment, I pivoted gracefully and threw the attacker with fluid ease. Wow, that was fun. But then as the next attacker came in, I tensed up again. Once more, Stickles Sensei called out, "Relax at the moment of contact." And once again I softened, pivoted, and easily made the throw. And again, and again. Every time I popped out of that zone of relaxation, the throw became difficult or impossible. Every time I sank back into it, it was easy. It was like turning a switch on and off. The difference was so stark, it was funny. Anything you can do better from that place of fluidity and ease. Anything. There's never a reason not to relax. Until it becomes habitual, you do have to think about it and make a deliberate choice. First, the challenge comes at you like one of my 3 attackers. Maybe it's, uh-oh, here comes my crazy neighbor again to complain about my trash cans. Or, uh-oh, here I go again, walking to the front of the conference room to give my presentation and embarrass myself. Or, uh-oh, here I am on a first date again, and I really like this person. Do I seem too eager or too apathetic? Am I laughing too loud? The circumstances are different, but the uh-oh is the same. And that's what you have to notice. That's where the physical clenching takes place. Notice how that clenching feels in the body, and then unclench. No one has to teach you how to unclench. You just did it with the ball. You just have to remember to unclench. Okay, and it goes on for a little bit. So in general in life, can you see the application? Can you see this as an experiment you could try? Try doing things with more tension. Try relaxing at the moment of contact. See what works. Now, as far as playing tennis is concerned, again, I can't talk to it firsthand, but from what I watched, what I've seen in sports and in dance, and I've seen a lot of dance because my sister is a professional dancer and grew up around a lot of that. I remember when I was 10, maybe about 10 years old, my dad was a musician. He was playing at the Greek Theater, and it was a ballet of Midsummer Night's Dream. This was in the early 60s, and there was this new young stud in the ballet world, a guy named Rudolf Nureyev. And he was dancing the role of Oberon, and oh my God, it was like he was levitating. It was like he could just go up in the air and stay there as long as he wanted. And it was just like he was weightless. Now I know it from watching my sister, the kind of work that, this doesn't mean just, see, and the thing, and coming back to your question about the tennis, that, often we think of it as a choice between being vigorous, strong and tight, or loose and just soft and noodle-like and flaky and weak. And I think that the real stars, the great ones, whether it's in tennis or dance or acting or trading oil futures, they find that place where it's strong and vigorous but fluid, strong and vigorous but relaxed. And that's all, and that's all the Zen in the art of. The great classic book Zen in the Art of Archery was written by, who was his name? Eugene Herrigel, a German who went and he studied. In the Japanese Zen culture, they have this wonderful thing of integrating this meditative zone of finding it in any activity. So it can be a martial art, or it can be archery, or it can be the tea ceremony, or it can be flower arranging or calligraphy. It's all fine. It can be gardening, right? It's any of that. It's finding that place of strength, total vigor, total relaxation. The more obvious thing is to be strong and tense, or to be relaxed and weak. But that sweet spot. Actually, there's another story about the Buddha. Someone was asking the Buddha, some variation of this question, and something about, how to be in meditation. Should I just be, and this guy was a musician. He played the veena. It's a stringed instrument, kind of like a violin. And the Buddha said, well, when you put the strings on your instrument, does it play well if you just have the strings just totally loose? I said, no. Does it play well if you have the strings just really, really tight? I said, no. Okay, it's just got to be in that place where it's that lively place in the middle.
The middle way.
Yeah, the middle way. So, we're doing this, what's today? Today's the 13th? When is Thanksgiving?
Next week.
Next week is Thanksgiving.
22nd,
Right,
is
so
it?
the 27th, 2 weeks from now, we're past Thanksgiving, right? So we'll be, that's why we did this one just a week after our previous. So 2 weeks from tonight, 27th, we will be back here. You two folks, we will be back with you. It's really good to do this every day. It's really good to, usually when you're practicing at home, you want to do some kind of little on-ramp. You could do the mantra, or you can just do some breathing, or you can rest your gaze on here in lovely Santa Monica, if you're sitting on the beach, just rest your gaze on the ocean, or just listen to the sounds of the wind in the trees. Just something to, especially been running, if you've come home after a busy day, just something to, as a kind of an on-ramp for a few minutes, or just follow your breath, maybe breathing more fully than usual. And then whatever the on-ramp is, just forget it. Just sitting easily with the eyes closed. Notice the space of awareness within which things are coming and going. Let them come and go. Rest in the space. Allow the space. Allow everything to dissolve into the space. And take your time coming up. Simple. And you keep doing that, things get more fun. Less suffering. Less grinding your gears. So, may all beings everywhere swiftly realize the sublime ease of settling into the open space of their own awareness. The unnecessary nature of suffering. The true happiness, which is always, always, always available. And thus may peace naturally come to prevail throughout this world and all possible worlds. And the traditional Sanskrit language for that wish. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Cookie time. Now we get to the good stuff.